Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can create a ripple effect, transforming lives in the most unexpected ways. This is a story of a cashier, a hidden identity, and a revelation that will leave you inspired. It's a testament to humility, compassion, and the power of human connection. In the heart of a fast-paced city, where towering skyscrapers reached for the sky and streets pulsed with the rhythm of hurried footsteps, stood a modest grocery store. Unlike the grand supermarkets found in the city's bustling commercial districts, Riverside Grocers was a small, family-owned establishment tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. Its glass doors welcomed customers with a warm glow, the scent of freshly baked bread lingering in the air, mingling with the faint aroma of coffee brewing in a small corner cafe next door. It wasn't flashy, nor was it a place that drew crowds of tourists, but for the locals, it was a second home. At the heart of this cozy store was Sarah Collins, a 25-year-old cashier with warm hazel eyes and a kind smile that seemed to make even the most exhausted customers feel at ease. For 4 years, Sarah had worked at Riverside Grocers, and to her, it was more than just a job, it was a calling. Unlike some who saw cashier work as mundane, Sarah found fulfillment in the simple act of interacting with people. She was the kind of person who noticed when a regular customer had a rough day, who remembered birthdays, and who always had a kind word to offer. Sarah's warmth and genuine care made her more than just a cashier. She was a part of the community. The elderly Mrs. Peterson, who lived just a few blocks away, often came in not just for groceries, but for conversation. Young parents with toddlers in tow knew that Sarah would always have a sticker or a lollipop ready to brighten a child's day. Even those who had seen better days, struggling students, overworked professionals, and people simply going through hard times, found comfort in Sarah's small acts of kindness. But beneath her ever-present smile, Sarah carried her own burdens. Having grown up in the foster care system, she knew what it was like to feel invisible, to long for a sense of belonging. Life had never been easy, and despite her struggles, she had made a conscious decision to be the kind of person she wished she had met when she was younger, someone who made others feel seen and valued. Her shift at Riverside Grocers started early each morning, and though the job could be exhausting, Sarah never let it show. She took pride in keeping the checkout lanes moving efficiently, in making sure the shelves near the registers were neatly stocked, and most importantly, in making each customer feel like they mattered. On a particularly rainy afternoon, with the sky painted in shades of gray, Sarah stood behind the counter, absent-mindedly arranging the magazines near the checkout. The steady patter of raindrops against the storefront windows made the store feel even cozier, a refuge from the chilly drizzle outside. It was on this seemingly ordinary day that a customer walked in, one who would unknowingly change Sarah's life forever. The store's bell chimed softly as the door opened, letting in a gust of cool, rain-scented air. Sarah looked up instinctively, her cashier's smile already in place, but the figure that stepped in caught her attention. A man entered, dressed in a simple gray hoodie and a pair of worn-out jeans. His baseball cap was pulled low over his face, casting a shadow that made it hard to discern his features. He paused at the entrance for a brief moment, as if uncertain whether he should step inside. Something about his hesitant posture, the way his shoulders hunched slightly, made Sarah take notice. "Hi there. Welcome to Riverside Grocers. Let me know if you need anything," she said warmly. The man nodded but didn't reply. Instead, he quietly made his way through the aisles, moving with a deliberate slowness. Sarah continued to serve other customers but kept an eye on him, noticing how he lingered longer than most shoppers, pausing every so often as if debating what to pick up. He wasn't acting suspiciously, but there was something about him that seemed off. She watched as he finally selected a loaf of bread, a carton of milk, and, after a long moment of hesitation, a small packet of cookies. His grip on the items was careful, almost reverent, as though they meant more to him than just groceries. When he approached the register, Sarah noticed something else. His hands were trembling slightly. As she rang up his items, she glanced up and saw the deep lines of worry etched on his face, barely visible beneath the shadow of his cap. "That'll be $12.50, she said, her voice as gentle as possible. The man fumbled in his pocket, pulling out a crumpled $10 bill and some loose change. He counted it twice before realization struck. He was short. His fingers tightened around the small packet of cookies. I think I'll just put these back, he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah hesitated for only a second before making a decision that came naturally to her. She reached for the cookies, placed them back in the bag, and gave the man a reassuring smile. Don't worry about it, she said warmly. It's on me today. The man's eyes flicked up, filled with surprise and hesitation. Are you sure? Absolutely, Sarah nodded. We all need a little kindness sometimes. For the first time since entering the store, the man smiled, a small, hesitant curve of his lips, but genuine nonetheless. He clutched the bag as if it held more than just groceries, as if it carried something deeper, hope. Thank you, he said, his voice rough but sincere. You have no idea how much this means to me. Sarah simply smiled. Take care, okay? As he turned and walked out into the rain, Sarah felt a warmth in her chest. It was a small gesture, barely anything to her, but to him, it seemed to mean the world. Little did she know, this single act of kindness would set off a chain reaction that would change both their lives forever. Over the next few weeks, Sarah noticed David returning to the store more frequently. He was no longer just a passing customer. Their brief exchanges turned into longer conversations. He began to ask Sarah about her day, her interests, and the things that made her smile. In return, she learned little pieces about him, how he had once run a successful business, how life had taken a difficult turn, and how he was slowly rebuilding himself. One evening, just as Sarah was about to close the store, she saw David standing outside, staring at the glowing sign. She stepped outside, wrapping her arms around herself to block the chilly air. David, she called. Everything all right? He turned, offering a small, thoughtful smile. Yeah, I've just been thinking a lot lately. Sarah leaned against the doorframe, waiting. After a long pause, he continued. You probably don't realize it, but that small act of kindness you showed me, it reminded me of something I had forgotten, what it means to truly care for others. She tilted her head, curiosity flickering in her eyes. What do you mean? David exhaled slowly. I used to own a business, a pretty big one actually. But at some point, I lost my way. I started caring more about the bottom line than the people who helped me build it. And when everything fell apart, I had no one left. He looked at Sarah, sincerity in his gaze. That day in the store, you didn't just help me buy groceries. You made me feel like I mattered, even when I felt invisible. Sarah was stunned. She had always believed in the power of kindness, but hearing how deeply her small action had impacted someone left her speechless. David reached into his pocket and handed her a business card. I've been working on getting back on my feet. The company I started is still standing, and I'm finally in a position to make a change. If you're ever interested, I'd love to have someone like you, someone who understands people, on my team. Sarah stared at the card in disbelief. It read, David Reynolds, CEO, Reynolds Enterprises. A few days later, David returned to Riverside Grocers, this time, not as a man struggling to find his way, but as someone with newfound direction. Gone were the worn-out jeans and hoodie. In their place was a neatly pressed suit, a reflection of the confidence he had regained. The transformation was striking, and employees murmured in curiosity as he made his way to the checkout counter where Sarah stood. When she saw him, her breath caught for a moment. David? She asked, eyes scanning his changed appearance. He smiled warmly. Sarah, I came back because I wanted to thank you again, properly this time. Sarah blinked, still adjusting to the change. You don't have to thank me, really. It was just... No. David interrupted gently. It wasn't just a small thing. It was the first step in helping me find my way again. He reached into his pocket and handed her a neatly folded letter. Inside is a formal job offer. I want you to come work for Reynolds Enterprises. Your kindness, your ability to make people feel valued. That's something I need in my company. I want to build a workplace that truly cares about its people, and I can't think of anyone better to help me do that than you. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she unfolded the letter. The offer was real, generous, and life-changing. She looked up at David, emotions swirling in her chest. I don't know what to say. Say yes, David said with a grin. Say you'll take a chance on something new. For a moment, Sarah hesitated. This grocery store had been her home, her comfort zone. But then she thought about the people she could help, the impact she could make. And she realized, maybe this was her chance to take the kindness she had always shared and amplify it on a greater scale. She met David's gaze and nodded, a bright smile breaking across her face. "Yes, I'd love to." The store erupted into quiet applause, employees and customers alike celebrating her moment. In that instant, Sarah understood, kindness was never just about one act. It was about the chain reaction it set in motion, the lives it touched, and the transformations it sparked. Lessons learned from the story. The story of Sarah and David reminds us that even the smallest act of kindness can have a profound impact. A simple gesture like helping a stranger can spark hope, inspire change, and open doors to unexpected opportunities. We never truly know how our actions might influence someone else's life. Meaningful message. Success is not solely measured by wealth or status, but by how we treat one another. A business thrives when it prioritizes its people. In life, sometimes, all it takes is a little compassion to make a difference. Personal perspective. I believe kindness is not just a moral value, but a force that can transform lives. Sarah didn't expect anything in return when she helped David, yet her sincerity led her to an opportunity beyond her imagination. This proves that when you give with a genuine heart, life responds in ways you never expect. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to Story Precious to receive more heartwarming videos. We strive to share meaningful stories that spread positivity and inspire change. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.